Hi, I'm Patrick Perry. I'd like to show you people wear the face mask. I'd like to show you. Hey, listen, I'll just show you about a river collection. Let me show you that is. Okay, this is a collection. Let me show you that is. And see? Okay, I'm gonna just show you that and nobody's here. The dog car. This is a 24 hours fitness. You'll be right here. Okay. And now let's listen. I'm gonna make it fast forward. Okay, I'm gonna make it fast forward. Okay. This is at the Collection River Park. You'll be right here. And you see right here. Let's see here. I'm gonna find new place to go. Gotta find restaurants. Need to be somewhere at. That's the Annex Food Hall. Need to be right here. Listen, okay. I'm gonna take a look about the food with the tables. You got you cannot eat the inside. You got to eat outside. Let me show you that. Yes, let me show you. By the way, I'm gonna make it fast forward. Okay, here we are. Here we are. Okay. See the street right here? He blocked right here. They block it. Look at that. See, he blocked right here. You see right here? Okay, you cannot eat inside. You gotta eat outside. You gotta eat outside right here. Look at that. See right here? Look at that right here. Okay, this is a, let me see right here. This individuating wipes. You be right here, called the Collection River Park. Yeah, you need to grab the wipe and you gotta do the call the hand wipes. Called the hand wipes. I'm gonna take a look at that right here. You might have to take a look. Yeah, this is called the street right here. They block it right here. They block it. That's called wear the face mask. Wear the face mask. Oh, look at that right here. Look at that. See the base right here? And see right here? Yeah, just I'm going to show you the annex, the food hall. Let us just say annex to the food hall. Look at that. Look at that right here. Look at that. And see right here? Yeah. The down right here is the table. The table is closed. You can't eat inside. You gotta eat outside. Let's take a look at that right here. Take a look. They say eat food and stay well. The collection. Okay, this is called the annex right here. The annex. Okay, let's say please allow 6 feet distance. Maybe right here. Okay, I'm gonna make it fast forward. Okay, this okay, you see right here? See a sign right here? I'm gonna start the radius. Look at that. Let this say. You see a sign say, please allow to 6 feet distancing. Maybe right here. Okay, now take a look at that right here. Is you see as a sign say for your safety, face covers are required to be worn by both team members and guests upon entry. Yeah, you gotta remember you got to wear the face mask. You gotta read that. You got to read that sign. You gotta read. Right here. He'll be right here. Oh, look at that right here. Okay, let me okay, let me show you I'd like to show you about with my computer is an image with the wear the face mask. I'd like to show you that. Yes, I'd like to show you. Okay, this is called wear the face mask. Let me show you that. Let me show you. Look at that. He wear a face mask. Be right here. Green barrel. Look at that. They couple up. Look at that right here. Look at that. Let me see if the anime wear a face mask. Look at that. He wears the face mask. This is face mask. Let me show you that is a Japanese wear face mask. Let me show you that is. See, Japanese people, he wear a face mask. Look at that. Okay, I like to show you about a YouTube is they wear the face mask. I like to show you that is. I like to show you. Listen, okay, listen. If you work in a province, any job coach will pick you up. Because they're gonna send in the mail. They got called wear the face mask. They got. I'm gonna show you that is. Gotta wear the face mask right here. There's a cover right here. Just like that. It's called the Mirror Network. They're gonna send in a mail for that. You send a mail. They're gonna give you that right here. You see? See? You work at any program, any job coach will pick you up. Okay. You gotta watch that video. You gotta watch that video. Now watch.
Smile, angry, surprise. こんにちは。
こんにちは。
秋ですね。
そうですね。こちらにフォトリクティブセンサーがついているんですけれども、このセンサーが、顔の肌とセンサーの距離を認識して学習することで表情を認識しています。
で、その時はですね、日本人の学生というのはアニメであったりゲームであったり、そういうキャラクターが好きだと。で、自分の顔をそのキャラクターに変えたい、そういう風なモチベーションから始まりました。例えばこのお医者さんがマスクを装着すると、そうすることによってその泣きわめく子供がですね、好きなキャラクターが出てきたら、もしかしたらその子供は喜んで例えば注射であったりこの歯医者の治療っていうのを受けるんじゃないかと。 next one Next video is
Parts of the country that are now
next videos.
instituting new mandatory mask regulations. Washington State and North Carolina among the latest. According to our new ABC News poll with Ipsos, 9 out of 10 Americans say they've worn a mask in public in the last week, but there's some partisan divide. 99% of Democrats compared to 79% of Republicans say they've worn a face covering. Matt Gutman is in Los Angeles with more on the mask division across the country. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Michael. And somehow wearing a mask has become this political flashpoint, even though doctors at hospitals like this remind us that the purpose of these masks is to protect others from our germs. And that's one reason that an increasing number of governors across the country are making wearing these mandatory, as increasing number of their constituents are rebelling against it.
Are you going to allow the government to tell you you have to wear a mask?
You could call it a mask mutiny.
Wearing a mask can actually cause you to get sick. So
Wearing a mask can actually cause you to get sick.
yes, absolutely.
That claim may be false, but the growing refusal to cover one's face is triggering a crackdown on airplanes.
I don't like wearing a mask.
Well, I'm going to ask you to come off the airplane.
American Airlines and now Delta confirming they've banned passengers for refusing to wear masks on board. And after scenes like these when Las Vegas reopened, Nevada's governor now making masks mandatory across the entire state. And he's not the only governor. Wearing a face covering in public now mandatory in 18 states. It's a requirement that's making some people very unhappy.
You literally cannot mandate somebody to wear a mask.
In Palm Beach County, Florida, where a mask ruling just went into effect, residents up in arms.
The fact of the matter is, it's our bodies, it's our choice whether we're going to wear them, not wear them. You guys are overstepping your boundaries 100%.
And in Arizona, where they hit a record number of COVID hospitalizations this week, a councilman in Scottsdale under fire after appearing to mock the dying words of George Floyd and Eric Garner as he protested wearing a mask.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
He later apologized. And at this Trump rally, also in Scottsdale on Tuesday, the president's supporters telling me masks weren't necessary.
No, I don't wear a mask, even though I have my immune system is a little compromised because I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Take a look at this video. It shows how much saliva we spray at each other in everyday conversations.
Stay healthy.
Put a mask on, and the results are dramatically different.
Stay healthy.
Wearing a mask is essentially helping others from getting infected. But if you wear a mask, you protect others. If others wear masks, they protect you.
Masks have been estimated to reduce the risk of coronavirus transmission from 17% to 3%. And a new model from the University of Washington estimates around 33,000 lives could be saved by October 1st if nearly everyone begins to wear a mask.
And just to give you another sense of how effective wearing a mask can be, we've been covering COVID for months, and I've spoken to medical professionals, dozens of them across the country. And so many of them have told me that they feel safer inside their COVID wards, where so many people are wearing masks, than out in the public, where so many fewer people wear masks. Michael.
All right, thank you so much, Matt. And now we're going to bring in Dr. Jennifer Aston, who is joining us from, I don't know where you are, home or wherever you are, Doc, but you're going to join us. You're going to help us bust a couple of mask myths that are out there. But first, are there any medical conditions that will prevent someone from wearing a mask?
There aren't a lot, Michael. I mean, there are certainly some people, maybe for PTSD reasons or severe claustrophobia, psychologically may not be able to wear one. But in general, if someone is well enough to be out in public, they're medically well enough to put some kind of face covering or mask on.
And now we're going to talk about the myths that are out there. We heard a woman in the piece. She said they make you sick. And then an image that was shared online warned that masks lower your oxygen level. And a video that was posted has more than 1 million views that claims that it makes you breathe in too much carbon dioxide. So what is the reality?
Far from that, Michael. I mean, this is basic physics. Basic science. First of all, masks are not airtight. You are not hermetically sealed by putting a face covering on. The molecule size of oxygen and carbon dioxide are so small they can easily go through that covering. And just think about this rationally, Michael. If that were true, any surgeon, any nurse, any lab technician, anyone who works in a job that requires them to wear a mask would be passing out. So let's try to keep it to fact, not fiction here, because people's lives are really at stake.
If you think about it, it's pretty common sense right there, Doc. And last myth, many people believe wearing a mask eliminates the need for social distancing, but this is incorrect, and please tell us why.
Yeah, I actually texted Dr. Anthony Fauci this question a few weeks ago to be crystal clear. It's not either a mask or 6 feet apart. It's both. And remember, that's for everyone else's protection, and it may be for your protection as well.
Yeah, you see so many wearing masks, but they come together thinking that that's going to help. All right, Doc, thank you so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
Next videos.
ごめんなさい。危機一髪だったわね。助かったわ。ありがとう。私風邪ひいてんのよ。その間に抜け駆けしてタキシード仮面様に抱きつくなんてずるいわ。そんなんじゃないわよ。喧嘩はやめなさい。何よアミちゃんまで。セーラームーンの味方をする気？そうじゃないわ。
Next videos.
Don't miss this.
Only in Japan.
If you come to Japan between November and March, you're probably going to see people wearing surgical masks. When I first came to Japan, I thought that was pretty bizarre because we don't see people wearing masks in the US when they're sick. I only saw that in hospitals and usually surgeons performing surgery. But here in Japan, it's quite common. In fact, people are not shy at all to leave the house, out in the trains, go to the office with a sick mask on. The reason? Well, I'm not really sure. So I brought my friend Megumi here to answer some of my questions.
Hi, Tom.
Are you sick?
No, I'm not sick. No.
Okay, so if you're not sick, why are you wearing a mask?
I'm just protecting myself.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, so you wear a mask as a defensive mechanism against getting sick from other people.
Exactly. Well, especially like every day I take train. Train is a dangerous, dangerous place. So every day I take train and inside the train it's like packed of people in the morning, and if the person in front of you start coughing or sneezing, what can you do? Nothing. You are just standing. You cannot escape from the train. So, mask, yes, it protects you from, from someone starting coughing.
A frontal attack.
In front attack. I don't know the side, but still, you need some protection. So that's why we need a mask.
Megumi seems to make a lot of sense. I asked the train passenger outside the station for another point of view.
すごい公共の場で咳とかしている人から自分を守るために一応してます。でも本当は寒いからしてます。
So this train passenger is wearing her mask to protect herself from other sick people and to stay warm. Interesting. There are many varieties of sick masks you can wear. It all depends on your preference. This one has a super strong filter. This one has a nose guard. These come in different colors for women who want to match their outfit. This is a 1-week supply of masks, has a wire nose guard, and offers a 99% promise to cut off viruses if worn properly. Megumi and I decided to try one on. Megumi has chosen a mask with moisture packs. The box says it's perfect for the office, school, or for sleeping. Just place the moisture pads into the mask's folds and voila! You have a mask that both protects and keeps the air inside moist for hours.
How does it fit?
Good. They have the steam coming out from the mask.
I decided to try this unique mask with a nose guard to see if it felt comfortable.
Alright. Pretty comfortable.
So, if you come to Japan in the winter, wear a mask. It offers protection from the sick, keeps others from getting sick, helps reduce hay fever, and keeps you warm.
Next videos.
我跟你说了，不要让我拽你，对，俺没有知道吧？对，我也知道。你想走了，你就把口罩戴着。我一直在找，好吧？我找家里我给你买。我回来，你再找我给你买。这个天天都不会缺我本身不想打110，就你这个态度，我跟你说，打110，叫你这个拘留是不拘留你也得拘留你2小时。 带上，带上，带上，带上。我跟你说了，不要让我拽你，对，俺没有知道吧？对，我也知道。你想走了，你就把口罩戴着。我一直在找，好吧？我找家里我给你买。我回来，你再找我给你买。这个天天都不会缺我本身不想打110，就你这个态度，我跟你说，叫你打110，叫你这个拘留是不拘留你也得拘留你2小时。
Now with more on the conflicts over
Next videos.
Wearing masks during this pandemic. One caught on camera after an airline passenger refused to wear a mask and was escorted off the flight. Gio Benitez is at LAX with the story. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, George, good morning. Yeah, that passenger was taken off the plane right here at LAX. This, as we're getting a first-hand look at new technology meant to keep people safe.
This morning, tensions running high on a plane as a passenger refuses to wear a mask. The incident happening aboard a Frontier Airlines flight from LA to Denver.
The airline staff had no other option, it seemed like, and they ended up calling on to have the LAPD come on to the plane.
Those officers boarding the plane and removing the passenger.
Not everyone wants to wear masks. I'm one of those people, but you know, we do have to comply to, you know, and if you want to fly, like, we have to do what we kind of have to do right now.
This is insane, absolutely insane. So we don't even have a choice anymore.
This coming after American Airlines banned a passenger for the duration of the coronavirus crisis for violating its mandatory mask policy last week. Major U.S. airlines say face coverings are mandatory. With passengers now facing the new realities of traveling in the age of COVID-19, airports are looking at new ways to keep customers safe. Now starting today, another change at Los Angeles International Airport, a first-in-the-nation pilot program to check passenger temperatures. So let's show you how it works. If you're a passenger at LAX, you'll walk right through here under the watchful eye of a thermal camera. And if the system flags you, you'll be brought over here for a secondary screening to make sure that you don't have an elevated temperature. One camera screening passengers walking in, another rotating 360 degrees, scanning the terminal, zeroing in on any passenger with a temperature of 100.4 or higher. Will you prevent anyone from flying?
No, we will not prevent anyone from flying. But it should be noted that some of the international airlines that are operating out of this terminal are also conducting their own temperature check, and they would be able to prevent people from flying.
For now, the screening is optional, but within 2 months, it could be mandatory.
We want to develop this pilot. We want to get the learnings from this pilot. We want to develop a framework of how it could work not only here at LAX, but at any airport in the country. And so we certainly hope that it will drive that standardization.
So again, this program starts today here at LAX. Other airports around the world have been using similar technology, but this is the first time we would see it here at a major U.S. airport. George?
Okay, Gio Benitez, thanks very much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
As coronavirus
next videos.
First cases continue to rise in Texas. Mayors across the state are asking Governor Abbott to require masks. KX's Sunny Side tells us how wearing a face mask can slow the spread of coronavirus.
We still have a pandemic. We still have this disease in our community.
Coronavirus is not over, and the number of cases is not going down. Whether you are going to the grocery store, eating at a restaurant, or hanging out with friends outside, it is highly recommended you wear a face mask.
We are seeing a significant increase in cases here in Brazos County, and a lot of the cases are in that younger, more active demographic, actually about 18 to maybe the low 50s. And these are people who are trying to go back to work. These are people who are trying to get back to normal.
When you don't feel like you have the virus, you may continue to go out and engage in everyday activities.
If they were to go get tested, and there's a good chance that they would end up being positive. And as long as they're going out without a face mask and they're around large groups of people for prolonged periods of time, then they're helping to transmit the disease.
Coronavirus particles spread through the air between two people. Wearing a face mask and socially distancing yourself can help contain the spread of the coronavirus.
We also have to be smart here, and we have to recognize that this is the way this virus is transmitted. We have to recognize that just because there has been an opening doesn't mean that the virus has become any less virulent, any less of a threat.
Dr. Sullivan adds, wearing a face mask is most important indoors when you cannot socially distance yourself, especially when you are shopping.
The problem with the grocery store is that you don't have control over social distancing. If you're up and looking in an aisle and trying to look for the items that you like, there might be somebody within your space pretty quickly, maybe without you even. And they could be coughing, they could be sneezing, and you don't know until it's already happened and it's entered into your space.
Wearing a mask and containing the spread of COVID-19 is an individual responsibility, and every person's effort makes a difference. In College Station, Sunnyside, KAGS News.
Limiting your social contact to smaller parties of people is still advised, and social distancing is strongly encouraged.
Next videos.
Well, KCTV5 has been closely following the ever-changing advice regarding face masks. Head to any grocery store or pick up food at a restaurant, and you'll see a good chunk of people wearing masks and even gloves. Hard to believe how things have changed in just a few weeks. And a face mask is why a young woman was fired in Olathe. Here's investigative reporter Angie Racono.
We first spoke to Grace Leeper a few weeks ago. She wanted to wear a mask like this to work, and she was fired. Tonight, we have an update.
It just boggles my mind that a couple of weeks after I did get fired, they are saying that we should wear face masks. So in like all actuality, I'm feeling confused. They're making people wear face masks now, so why was I fired, you know?
Grace Leeper was fired from Scooter's Coffee Shop. She pushed the issue about wearing a mask and was let go. The coffee shop sent a statement pointing out the CDC didn't advise it. Grace pointed out some other things.
And for like somebody to ask me to take off my face mask when that company doesn't even offer me health insurance was absolutely like heartbreaking to me. Like I was in tears.
A few weeks have rolled by, so we checked back in with Grace, knowing advice from the CDC has changed.
What goes through my mind is, why did I get fired, you know?
We wondered if things had changed, so we stopped by two Scooter's coffee shops.
Thank you very much.
Great day, no
you
problem.
too. Bye-bye.
The coffee shop where Grace was fired from is in Olathe. The person who served us wasn't wearing a mask.
Thank you.
Now check out the Lee Summit location. One worker was wearing a mask.
267, by the way.
And the person who took our order wore a bandana. So we checked back in with Scooters. The company sent this statement. We are aware that the position on face masks by the CDC has evolved. While wearing a face mask is not mandated by the CDC, we have recommended that our franchisees allow their employees to wear face masks. They said any further information on why some employees are wearing face masks and others aren't
Have a great day.
would violate the company's privacy policy. None of this makes much sense to Grace Leeper, who is now unemployed and sitting at home.
I was a little bit hurt just considering that I got fired for wearing a face mask and now people are saying that you should be wearing a face mask, so it's a little bit contradictory on their end.
We have a full statement from Scooter's Coffee Shop online. Angie Racono, KCTV5 News.
Next videos.
You know, an outbreak anywhere is an outbreak everywhere. That's the new mentality we have to have. We can't protect ourselves as an island because we're not. We have people coming in and out all day long. And when you have these spikes in China, in Europe, that's how it happened the first time. Now people can come from Florida, anywhere else. We're already seeing it. We have had significant clusters where people came from out of state. They came in, they attended a function, bang. The next day, we have an increase in the infections. We're doing so many tests and so many tracings that we can trace it back to patient 0, and they're very often from out of state. We have it downstate, we have it upstate. It is inevitable. So, yes, New Yorkers have to be smart, but we also have a problem that if the virus is increasing anywhere, it's going to travel here, and then we're going to have a problem. Denying COVID is really advancing the COVID virus. And I know this is a politically charged environment right now, and somehow COVID has become a political issue, which I've never heard of a virus becoming political, but in this environment it has. But if you deny the problem, then you will never solve it. We're not the United States of denial. We have never been a nation that has excelled because we refuse to admit the problem. We admit the problem, and then we overcome the problem. If we do not, as a nation, acknowledge the COVID viral increase, it is going to continue. Those upward numbers don't change on their own. They only change when you change them. That number keeps going up unless you bend the curve. The bend doesn't happen naturally. The bend happens when people change their behavior and actually reduce the transmission rate. So you look at those numbers in those states, those upticks are just going to continue. That mountain, that didn't just plateau because God said plateau. It plateaued because we did masks and social distancing and close down and all those activities and testing and tracing. That's how we bent the curve. If we are in a state of denial, you're going to see that curve continue to go up. Now, how do you bend the curve? We know how to bend the curve because we did it. You have to be aware of it. You have to admit it. You then have to take action, and you have to be committed to it. And it starts at the top with leadership. The President said over this weekend, if we didn't test so much and so successfully, we would have very few cases. Okay? Think about that for a second. What he's really saying is, if we didn't test, we wouldn't find the cases, and if we didn't find the cases, we wouldn't have a problem. That's incredible, but that's what he is saying. Okay, so let's just extend that logic. If we don't test, then we won't know, and if you don't know, then you have no problem. It's a great way to go through life, isn't it? So on that theory, let's do no more cancer tests, and that'll solve the problem with cancer. No more mammograms, because we don't want to know, and that'll solve breast cancer. No more prostate checks, that'll solve prostate cancer. No more TB checks, that'll end TB. No more HIV tests, and that will solve the AIDS issue. No, not knowing doesn't mean you don't have a problem. And in this case, if you do not admit it, and if you don't confront it, it is only going to increase. We know it has to be done because we lived it here and we did it here. To bend the curve, yes, you have to test, yes, you have to trace, yes, you have to isolate, yes, you have to phase the reopening, and you have to socially distance. But by the way, phasing the reopening is better than reopening recklessly, where you have the states, okay, we're reopened, everybody comes out, the virus goes up, stock market goes down, and now the states are saying we have to close again. A phased reopening is better than reopening and closing. That is not just a premise, it's been proven by the past experience. Look at the states that reopened recklessly and are now closing again. Who did that help? It actually set us back. So, Mr. President, don't be a co-conspirator of COVID. Do one simple thing. Acknowledge to the American people that COVID exists. It is a major problem. It's going to continue until we admit it and each of us stands up to do our part. If he does not acknowledge that, then he is facilitating the virus. He is enabling the virus. How did this become a political statement? This is common sense. And let the president start by sending that signal very simply. Just wear the mask. I've been asking him to do it for weeks. Just wear the mask and say to the American people, this is real and it's a problem and we have to do our part. We started masks April 15th. First state in the nation to start masks. They make a difference. July 4th, true patriots wear masks. True patriots are New York tough and smart and united and disciplined and loving.
Governor, one other thing the president has said in recent days is that the virus is no longer as lethal as it was when it targeted New York. He's made the case that 99.9% of the people who get it are fine, and that you basically just need to live with it. I wonder what your response is.
Yeah, I know this is what the president says. The president says a lot of things, right? They're not necessarily facts. They're not necessarily true. 99.9%. They then had his FDA commissioner on the television and said, is the president right? And he wouldn't say the president is right. He makes up facts. He makes up science. He wants to deny the COVID virus. He has from day one. Well, it's just like the flu. Well, it's going to be gone by Easter. It's going to get warm and then it's going to disappear like a miracle. He said all those things. None of them were true. And now we have a problem in 38 states because some people believed him. He won't wear a mask. Vice President Pence says wear a mask. All the health officials say wear the mask. He won't wear a mask because he doesn't want to admit that there is a COVID virus. Why? I have no idea.
Next video.
As Governor Mills mandates that people wear masks in public, business owners are seeing a lot of pushback.
Some people claim that this order violates their rights. Are they right about that? News Center Maine's Hannah Deneen takes a closer look.
I work for Costco and I'm asking this member to put on a mask because that is our company policy. So either wear the mask.
And I'm not doing it because I woke up in a free country.
Viral videos popping up across the country.
You are in violation of my constitutional rights and my civil rights.
People saying that a requirement for them to wear a mask is a violation of their constitutional rights.
People are getting mean about it, so they're getting really angry.
Catherine Lacasse is a general manager at the Brunswick. This has been a reoccurring problem at her restaurant.
And I explained to him, no, you have to have a mask to be seated. And then he was like, this is unconstitutional. I'm gonna stick you with a lawsuit. I can't wait.
So we've set out to set the record straight and verify, does requiring someone to wear a mask violate constitutional rights? Our experts are UMaine constitutional law professor Dimitri Baum, Cumberland County District Attorney Jonathan Sarbeck, and disability rights lawyer Atlee Riley. Baum says he's not surprised to hear about the pushback.
Because whenever you have any kind of a mandate by the government to do something, there's going to be a group of people who are opposed to being forced to do it.
In this case, he sees some argument for the 14th Amendment.
Almost a catch-all 14th Amendment type challenge, right? That being forced to wear a mask violates your liberty, freedom.
However, based on past rulings, Baum says he doesn't see that argument holding up in court.
The government has some leeway in protecting individuals' health and safety, right? And so as long as the government's justification for the restriction or for the imposition is strong enough, that suffices.
Now, as for private businesses, they have even more leeway.
I think it is sort of the equivalent of the no shirts, no shoes, no service policy that a lot of businesses have. They have the authority to be able to run their business as they seem fit to do, as long as it's not discriminating against a group of people.
Now, that, of course, includes discrimination against the disabled, some of who can't wear a mask safely. But even then, it's not so cut and dry.
It's really about solving the underlying problem. It may not be about waiving the requirement.
So that means that businesses don't have to waive the mask policy as long as they make reasonable accommodations for that person to get the same goods and services.
It may mean that you could allow someone to wear a clear face shield instead of a cloth mask.
So we can verify it is false. It is not unconstitutional for the government or a private business to require someone to wear a mask. And based on past rulings, any argument otherwise would most likely fail in court. With your Verify, I'm Hannah Deneen, News Center Maine.
Have a question you want us to verify? Email desk@newscentermaine.com.
Next videos.
So right here has become the most divisive thing on the earth right now.
I've got to put my 16-year-old son with a face covering on? I don't think so. That's what America is all about. It's all about individualism.
When something is being imposed by the government, that touches deep, deep feelings about individual freedom that roots in some of the founding ideas of the United States.
Mask or no mask? It's an argument Americans have been having since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Most doctors and scientists insist masks prevent the spread of the virus, but some politicians and citizens remain skeptical. And while this fight feels new, it's actually not. Something similar happened 100 years ago.
The history of mask wearing really begins in the second wave of the 1918 influenza pandemic. And so that's the deadliest wave. It's the fall wave. That's really when mask orders and even recommendations to wear masks starts to take off.
Wearing masks became a common practice among surgeons in Europe in the late 1800s, where doctors wore them to protect themselves from patients' respiratory droplets. The 1918 to 1919 flu pandemic took that practice outside of the operating room for the first time. It was the most deadly flu outbreak in history. At least 50 million people died worldwide, with around 675,000 deaths in the US. During this time, masks were recommended in Northeast cities, but mask wearing in public was mandatory in Western cities like San Francisco, Seattle, and Denver.
The typical mask was a surgical mask of the time, which was made out of 4, sometimes 6 plies of surgical gauze. It was pretty porous material. These were manufactured by a number of companies. They were also made by a bunch of Red Cross volunteers across the nation. But in many cases, the ordinance didn't stipulate what type of mask had to be worn. It just had to be a face covering, similar to what we see today. Chiffon face masks were made, for example, for the more fashion conscious people. There were definitely significant numbers of people who pushed back and who refused to wear their masks, or who were caught without masks temporarily, perhaps letting it dangle or removing it, taking it down to take a bite to eat or something like that. And we have reports from pretty much every city that issued these mandatory mask orders of, in some cases, hundreds of people being arrested. San Francisco is a prime example of that. The city police chief had to notify the health officer and the mayor that they needed to stop enforcing the mandatory mask ordinance because his jail cells were filling up with people who were caught without their masks as they were awaiting arraignment before a judge.
For some residents, San Francisco's requirement to wear a mask was so unpopular that in 1919, a group of dissidents decided to organize.
So at least 2,000 people meet in January of 1919 to form the Anti-Mask League, and they have this mass protest, this rally inside of an auditorium, where they listen to speeches from prominent physicians about why masks are not effective, from legal experts who say that it's unconstitutional, and just from people who believe that the government doesn't have a right to tell them what to do. We see not only several prominent physicians, but one of the members of the County Board of Supervisors is actually part of this Anti-Mask League. So these are quite prominent people in the community.
As new cases continued to decline and opposition to mask wearing increased, the officials of San Francisco ended mandatory mask wearing in February of 1919.
People are sick, people are dying.
I'm an American, and I feel like I should be able to do what I want to.
But while Americans bickered, Asian countries, including Japan, were quick to adopt mask wearing.
The Japanese in 1918, 1920, when the pandemic was raging around the world, were unusually enthusiastic about cosmopolitan ideas. The mask came to the Japanese public at that time not simply as an imposition of the government, but as a sign of modernity. By the post-World War II years, in the 60s in particular, the Japanese government is saying, no, it's more important for you to get your vaccine. But people clung to mask wearing. So at a certain point, the mask seems to have broken free from particular, public health initiatives and become something about personal space, about style even. And the term in Japanese for wearing a mask, call it a sort of a chic mask or a mask for style.
In Japan today, wearing masks is pretty common in winter to protect against the flu and in spring against pollen hay fever. Japan has had one of the lowest COVID-19 mortality rates of developed nations. Many believe it's because in Japan, it is perfectly normal to wear a mask.
The custom of wearing masks has spread with very little encouragement from the government. It's just being taken for granted that it was a sensible protective measure.
I think that we need to get past that rugged American individualism in this pandemic because we're all in this together. It's not just about protecting yourself, it's about protecting all of society.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here. And click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Next videos.
All right, so one of the questions, it's kind of a hot topic right now, and we get some of these questions is, should I be wearing a mask if I'm exercising outdoors? And it's a good question. I think it's warranted to ask something like that. So I just want to go back and start by saying, the CDC recommends that if you're going out in the public, you can't guarantee that you're going to maintain a social distance, and it's recommended that you use some kind of cloth face cover. But I think what this really comes down to is there is sort of a common sense factor here that we have to use. If you're someone, you're running in a very rural environment outdoors, you're never going to come across another person, using a mask probably isn't going to really matter for something like that. However, if you're someone who's running through the city, you're cycling through the city, you're coming to intersections, to crosswalks, to traffic lights, and there's other people on the corner, obviously you should be wearing a mask at that point, because maintaining social distancing is going to be very difficult when there's others around. So there's a few things that we can do to kind of help lessen coming across other individuals who are exercising outdoors. Number one, obviously exercise alone. You're going to go outside and run, or walk, or cycle. Try to do that alone. This way you're not in a large group, or you're not with other individuals. Try to pick a route or a route that is, that there's not going to be that many people, or there's not going to be anybody on that route. For example, some people like to run trails, and they'll never come across another person on the trail, and that'll be a great social distancing measure there. Try to adjust the time of day. If you know that there's more people out at lunchtime exercising, then maybe you want to try earlier in the morning, or maybe mid-afternoon, where there's not as many people out on the streets or on the sidewalks. So try to adjust the time of day, because we really just we want you to exercise. We want you to keep the cardiovascular fitness going, but we also don't want you to put yourself at risk by coming too close in contact and negating that social distancing that we need to maintain. So, a few other things I want to mention about masks, though. Number one, if you're going to wear any kind of mask or face covering when exercising, obviously there's a physical barrier there covering your nose and your mouth. So it's going to make breathing a lot harder than if you didn't have that on. And with exercise, we're just taking in higher volumes of air, and we're blowing out higher volumes of air. So it's really going to restrict our performance or ability to exercise at previous levels. So you want to probably back off a little bit on the intensity, back off maybe on the distance or the duration that you go, at least until you can kind of get a sense of, is that mask really going to hamper my ability to exercise? The other thing about wearing masks with exercise is it's going to create this very hot, humid environment on the face, and you have to be careful, because you want to make sure that you're either going to replace that mask on a regular basis, or wear something that is washable, so that we don't have to worry about bacteria and sweat on them. We just need to eliminate those areas that can cause you some discomfort down the line. So make sure that you're really taking that into account as well. Try a different kind of mask if one is feeling really restrictive. There's surgical type masks. There's people are wearing handkerchiefs. People have some tighter fitting ones. Find one that's going to work for you. If one's really bothering you while you exercise.
Listen, okay? Listen. A long time ago, my brother Kenneth say, Patrick, do not ride the bus. Government let you stay home. My brother Kenneth, he told me. Next video.
Imagine if the entire planet suddenly got sick. I can darn sure picture that. Now, let's give everyone a medical mask and make them wear it at all times. Would our planet get better? But seriously, in the case of a pandemic, how effective would wearing a mask be? How many of those things would we need to supply all of humanity? And why would it create a whole lot of jobs? This is What If, and here's what would happen if everyone wore medical face masks. The theory behind wearing face masks is that they prevent sprays of virus-laden fluids from entering your nose or mouth. Or if you're already sick, a mask works to keep those fluids from flying too far from your own nose and mouth so that you don't infect other people. Some people wear masks so that they breathe in fewer toxins and air pollution, but let's focus on medical masks. The guidelines about wearing a face mask during a pandemic are quite controversial, and they keep changing, so we'll try to clear this up as best we can. For starters, we'd need to give out medical masks to everyone on Earth. How many masks are we talking? There are about 7.8 billion people populating the planet right now. Given that it's not recommended to wear a mask for longer than 24 hours, you'd need roughly 55 billion medical masks every week to supply everyone. Of course, healthcare workers working on the front lines would get the highest quality, most expensive face protection, the N95 respirator mask. There are about 59 million healthcare workers in the world. Supplying all of them with N95s would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 million per day. The general public doesn't require as much protection. They'd get by wearing regular medical face masks at the cost of $3 billion daily. Right now, manufacturers don't produce enough masks. That would open up an opportunity for more businesses associated with mask production. And there would be more jobs. But who would cover the cost? Well, if no government agreed to write it into their budget, people would have to get those masks on their own. Everyone would need to spend at least $150 per year on face masks. There would likely be some kind of punishment in place for not wearing a mask. And once everybody got used to this new reality, your mask would become a fashion item. Like, we'd have to match our masks to the color of our socks, and no white masks after Labor Day. If everyone wore masks all the time, daily interactions would be different. It would be harder to read facial expressions. This could change the way we interpret body language. There would likely be some reduction in spreading viruses. Maybe that would save the world from another pandemic. I'm saying maybe because it's hard to measure the effectiveness of face masks. It depends on factors like face shape and mask type and even how often you breathe. The biggest problem with basic surgical masks is that air can get underneath the mask. And what's more important, breathing isn't always how you get sick. We shake hands with infected people and touch something that's infected. We touch our faces about 50 times in a single day. Of course, the mask could help you touch your face less, but once you touch the mask itself, you'd have to get a new one. You'd still need to wash your hands and keep your distance from those people who are sick, and you'd really need to learn how to wear that mask properly. First, you need to wash your hands with soap, or at least splash some hand sanitizer on them. Remove the mask from the box and place the loops behind your ears with the metal band at the top. Pull the bottom part of the mask towards your chin and press the metal band against your face so that the mask fits better. Discard it when it gets wet or dirty, and wash your hands before getting another clean one. Now, this all means that at least 8 billion face masks would be thrown away every day. They can't be reused or recycled, so they would add a lot more waste to our landfills. If you really want to make a difference, stay home during a pandemic and wear masks only when you're outside or when someone in your household is sick. Leave the heavy-duty N95 masks for healthcare professionals since they come in contact with sick patients. and maybe get creative. Just check which materials will actually protect you first. Pandemics are hard on everyone, but a little break from work could be good for us, right? Unless everyone just stopped working altogether. But that's a story for another What If.
The next video is GoToMeeting online. Yeah, I go to a co-focusing service. I reach your doodle goals. Doodle goals is called GoToMeeting online. I'd like to show you that. Yes, I'd like to show you. Now watch that videos.
Welcome to the all-new GoToMeeting. Today we'll be showing you the completely reimagined in-session experience. While we are demoing on a Mac, the experience is the same on a PC, and we'll teach you how to turn it on for both endpoints. From the time you start your meeting, you'll notice improvements that will make your life a lot easier. The new Join screen prepares you for the meeting you're about to join. Get a preview of what you'll look like before you enter the meeting, and choose whether or not you'd like to keep your video on or turn it off. You can also choose your preferred audio method by clicking on the settings icon in the top right corner. Select between phone or computer audio. Now click OK, I'm ready, and jump in. And remember, GoToMeeting will save your preferred settings so you can join your next meeting in a single click. Once you've joined your meeting, you'll notice that there are new webcam layouts to let you meet the way you want. The first is our Talking View. With Talking View, GoToMeeting automatically identifies who is talking and makes sure they're placed front and center. This view is perfect for focusing on a single presenter during a long presentation. Easily seeing who is talking during a large meeting or even just a casual one-on-one meeting. The next view we have is the Everyone view. This shows everyone in the meeting, whether they're sharing their webcam or not. This is great for quickly identifying everyone in the meeting, but in larger meetings can make webcams very small. That's why we've introduced a camera-only view. It makes for a great video first experience, as you see here. Or you can use our Hide Everyone view to hone in on a presentation. Ready to present? Click the Screen Share button at the bottom of the screen. For this example, we'll choose to share the PowerPoint application. Now, you're showing your presentation to your attendees. As a presenter in the new GoToMeeting, your experience has been enhanced. With just a single monitor, you can see your presentation and still see your attendees' reactions while you present and gauge their interest. You'll also be able to get a preview of exactly what your attendees are seeing and ensure everyone is on the same page. As a meeting attendee, you also have some new features and functionality that make being a remote participant just that much easier. Easily zoom in or out so you can see exactly what the presenter is referring to. Take a screenshot of what is being presented and it will automatically save to your desktop. Or even push webcams and the presentation to multiple monitors. The new GoToMeeting was designed by our customers for customers. No more fumbling about looking for buttons to navigate the meeting. Things like recording, muting, webcam, and screen sharing have been placed front and center at the bottom of your screen. All other functionality has been moved to the navigation bar on the top right. You can see your attendees, mute and unmute them, invite others to the meeting with the push of a button, and lock your meeting. Just as before, you can also chat with other attendees in the meeting, choose between group or individual chat messages. Finally, by clicking on the Settings button, you're able to manage your audio connection. Seamlessly switch from phone to computer audio when you have bad reception, or switch from computer audio to phone when you have poor network connection, all without ever leaving the meeting. When the meeting is over, just click on the red phone at the bottom of your screen to leave the meeting. So how do I turn on the new GoToMeeting experience? If you're on a Windows PC, simply right-click on the GoToMeeting icon and scroll up to click on Preferences. Click on the Meetings category. Click the checkbox that says Test the new GoToMeeting user interface and press OK. If you're on a Mac, the enablement process is almost the exact same. Click on the GoToMeeting icon to open the application. Next, click on GoToMeeting in the top tray. Scroll down and click on Preferences. And finally, click on the Meetings category. Click the checkbox that says Test the new GoToMeeting user interface and press OK. Now the next meeting you host or join from your desktop app will be in the new experience. Modernize your meeting with the all-new GoToMeeting. Try it out today.
Listen, okay? I work a code fulfillment service. I reach you through the Go. Any job coach gonna pick me up? The start of the GoToMeeting online is May 2020 with the GoToMeeting online. My job coach that picked me up. You may take a look about a long time ago is 1918. Okay. About March 1918, people wear the government wear the face mask. That's a long time ago for that is. You may take a look. You see, he wear the face mask a long time ago. Look at that. They say wear the face wearing rules in the 1918 pandemic phase resistance. You wear the face mask. Okay, I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna read the right here and tell what they do is wear the March 1918 wear the face mask. Just hang on. Okay. Just hang on, okay? Time to read out loud. It's time to read out loud. Hang on. I'm gonna pause. Okay. Time to read out loud. Here we go.
The influenza pandemic of 1918 and 1919 was the most deadly flu outbreak in history, killing up to 50 million people worldwide. In the United States, where it ultimately killed around 675,000 people, local governments rolled out initiatives to try to stop its spread. These varied by region and included closing schools and places of public amusement, enforcing no-spitting ordinance, raging people to use handkerchiefs or disposable tissues, and requiring people to wear masks in public. Mask-wearing ordinances mainly popped up in the western states, and it appears most people complied with them. The nation was still fighting in World War I, and officials framed anti-flu measures as a way to protect the troops from the deadly outbreak. Watch, the Spanish flu was deadlier than World War I. The first recorded infection was in a U.S. Army private stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas on March 4, 1918. Although the United States and the other nations at war initially suppressed news of the flu, neutral Spain freely reported it, hence the misnomer Spanish flu. There was a sense that following these new health precautions was patriotic. As one Red Cross PSA put it, the man or woman or child who will not wear a mask now is a dangerous slacker. This sense of wartime duty, and the fear of being seen as a slacker, may have motivated those who complied with mask orders in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, and Phoenix. Yet even though compliance was high, some complained that the masks were uncomfortable ineffective, or bad for business. Officials were caught in public without masks. And after the war ended, and there was no longer a sense that people should wear masks to keep the troops safe, some dissenters even formed an anti-mask league in San Francisco. Watch World War I documentaries on History Vault. Masks were made of gauze or even more porous material. Women working for the Red Cross make masks during the pandemic flu in 1918. Bettman Archive/Getty Images. In 1918, advanced masks like the N95s that healthcare workers use today were a long way off. Surgical masks were made of gauze, and many people's flu masks were made of gauze too. Red Cross volunteers made and distributed many of these, and newspapers carried instructions for those who may want to make a mask for themselves or donate some to the troops. Still, not everyone used the standard surgical design or material. To entice people to get them to wear them, cities were pretty lax in terms of what people could wear, says J. Alex Navarro, Assistant Director of the Center for the History of Medicine at the University of Michigan, and one of the editors-in-chief of the American Influenza Epidemic of 1918 to 1919, a digital encyclopedia. In October 1918, the Seattle Daily Times carried the headline "Influenza Veils Set New Fashion. Seattle Women Wearing Fine Mesh with Chiffon Border to Ward Off Malady." These fashionable masks and others made from dubious material probably weren't helping much. Yet there was also debate within the medical and scientific community about whether multiple-ply gauze masks were effective either. For instance, Detroit Health Commissioner J.W. Inches said gauze masks were too porous to prevent the spread of the flu among the public. Also, masks are most effective when worn properly, which wasn't always what happened. In Phoenix, where most people apparently complied with the city's mask order, some nonetheless poked holes in their masks to smoke, which greatly reduced their effectiveness. See photos, the 1918 flu campaigns to shame people into following new rules. Mask slackers faced enforcement, punishment. Still, for the small percentage of people who went without a mask entirely, reports suggest their issue had less to do with the science behind them, and more to do with personal comfort. You read routinely about people not wanting to wear them because they're hot and stuffy, says Nancy Bristow, chair of the history department at the University of Puget Sound and author of American Pandemic, The Lost Worlds of the 1918 Influenza Epidemic. Some people argue against them because they say that they create fear in the public, and that we want to keep people calm, which I think is really an excuse to critique them because someone doesn't want to wear them. 9. Gallery. 9 images. Photos, innovative ways people tried to protect themselves from the flu. Some businesses worried customers would shop less if they had to wear a mask when they went outside, and some people claimed mask ordinances were an infringement upon civil liberties. Yet more important in terms of critiques, Bristow says, is this idea that we've heard today, as well that they give people a false sense of security. As she points out, wearing a mask is less effective when people don't follow other health guidelines too, and especially if some are poking holes in their masks to smoke. Cities that passed masking ordinances in the fall of 1918 struggled to enforce them among the small portion of people who rebelled. Common punishments were fines, prison sentences, and having your name printed in the paper. In one horrific incident in San Francisco, a special officer for the Board of Health shot a man who refused to wear a mask as well as 2 bystanders. This was far different from the treatment San Francisco's leaders received when they didn't comply. At a boxing match, a police photographer captured images of several supervisors, a congressman, a justice, a Navy Rear Admiral, the city's health officer, and even the mayor, all without masks. The health officer paid a $5 fine, and the mayor later paid a $50 fine, but unlike other mask slackers, they received no prison time, not to mention no one shot at them. Mask wearing declines after the war. A man receives a shave from a barber who wears a mask during the ongoing pandemic in Chicago, Illinois, circa 1918. Chicago Sun-Times/Chicago Daily News Collection/Chicago History Museum/Getty Images. San Francisco's first masking order began in October and ended in November after the World War I armistice. In January, when flu cases began to surge again in San Francisco, the city implemented a second mask order. This time, the resistance was much more intense. A group of dissenters that included a few physicians and one member of the Board of Supervisors formed the Anti-Mask League, which held a public meeting with over 2,000 attendees. Navarro speculates the resistance to San Francisco's second mask order may have been more intense because the country was no longer at war, and some residents didn't feel the same sense of patriotic duty they had before. In any case, the city was an outlier. It doesn't appear that there were similar leagues or protests in other cities. Nancy Tomes, a distinguished professor of history at Stony Brook University, who has written about public health measures during the 1918 to 1919 flu pandemic, says, while there were pockets of resistance to mask wearing in 1918 and 1919, it was not widespread. And unlike handkerchiefs and paper tissues, which Tomes says people began to use more regularly because of the pandemic, mask wearing did not catch on in the United States after the ordinances ended. It's still difficult to say how effective mask wearing on its own was in 1918 and 1919. What is clear is that communities that implemented stronger health measures overall fared better than those that didn't. Today, we can look back and see that they flattened the curve, and the communities that did enforce much stricter regulations, and for a longer period of time, and began earlier had lower death rates, Bristow says. But they didn't have that data tabulated yet, so I think in the aftermath it wasn't as clear that what they had done had been effective. The horrific scale of the 1918 influenza pandemic, known as the Spanish flu, is hard to fathom. The virus infected 500 million people worldwide and killed an estimated 20 million to 50 million victims. That's more than all of the soldiers and civilians killed during World War I combined. While the global pandemic lasted for 2 years, a significant number of deaths were packed into 3 especially cruel months in the fall of 1918. Historians now believe that the fatal severity of the Spanish flu's second wave was caused by a mutated virus spread by wartime troop movements. Read more, Pandemics That Changed History. 10. Gallery. 10 images. When the Spanish flu first appeared in early March 1918, it had all the hallmarks of a seasonal flu, albeit a highly contagious and virulent strain. One of the first registered cases was Albert Gitchell, a U.S. Army cook at Camp Funston in Kansas, who was hospitalized with a 104-degree fever. The virus spread quickly through the Army installation, home to 54,000 troops. By the end of the month, 1,100 troops had been hospitalized and 38 had died after developing pneumonia. History This Week podcast, the deadliest pandemic in modern history. As U.S. troops deployed en masse for the war effort in Europe, they carried the Spanish flu with them. Throughout April and May of 1918, the virus spread like wildfire through England, France, Spain, and Italy. An estimated 3/4 of the French military was infected in the spring of 1918, and as many as half of British troops. Yet the first wave of the virus didn't appear to be particularly deadly, with symptoms like high fever and malaise usually lasting only 3 days. According to limited public health data from the time, mortality rates were similar to seasonal flu. Read more, U.S. presidents who became ill in office. How the Spanish flu got its name. Interestingly, it was during this time that the Spanish flu earned its misnomer. Spain was neutral during World War I, and unlike its European neighbors, it didn't impose wartime censorship on its press. In France, England, and the United States, newspapers weren't allowed to report on anything that could harm the war effort, including news that a crippling virus was sweeping through troops. Since Spanish journalists were some of the only ones reporting on a widespread flu outbreak in the spring of 1918, the pandemic became known as the Spanish flu. Reported cases of Spanish flu dropped off over the summer of 1918, and there was hope at the beginning of August that the virus had run its course. In retrospect, it was only the calm before the storm. Somewhere in Europe, a mutated strain of the Spanish flu virus had emerged that had the power to kill a perfectly healthy young man or woman within 24 hours of showing the first signs of infection. In late August 1918, military ships departed the English port city of Plymouth carrying troops unknowingly infected with this new, far deadlier strain of Spanish flu. As these ships arrived in cities like Brest in France, Boston in the United States, and Freetown in West Africa, the second wave of the global pandemic began. The rapid movement of soldiers around the globe was a major spreader of the disease, says James Harris, a historian at Ohio State University who studies both infectious disease and World War I. The entire military-industrial complex of moving lots of men and material in crowded conditions was certainly a huge contributing factor in the ways the pandemic spread. Read more, when mask-wearing rules in the 1918 pandemic faced resistance. Virus killed the young, old, and in between. Victims of the Spanish flu at a barracks hospital on the campus of Colorado Agricultural College, Fort Collins, Colorado, 1918. American unofficial collection of World War I photographs /PhotoQuest/Getty Images. From September through November of 1918, the death rate from the Spanish flu skyrocketed. In the United States alone, 195,000 Americans died from the Spanish flu in just the month of October. And unlike a normal seasonal flu, which mostly claims victims among the very young and very old, the second wave of the Spanish flu exhibited what's called a W curve, high numbers of deaths among the young and old, but also a huge spike in the middle composed of otherwise healthy 25 to 35-year-olds in the prime of their life. That really freaked out the medical establishment, that there was this atypical spike in the middle of the W, says Harris. Read more, as the 1918 flu emerged, cover-up and denial helped it spread. Not only was it shocking that healthy young men and women were dying by the millions worldwide, but it was also how they were dying. Struck with blistering fevers, nasal hemorrhaging, and pneumonia, the patients would drown in their own fluid-filled lungs. Only decades later were scientists able to explain the phenomenon now known as cytokine explosion. When the human body is being attacked by a virus, the immune system sends messenger proteins called cytokines to promote helpful inflammation. But some strains of the flu, particularly the H1N1 strain responsible for the Spanish flu outbreak, can trigger a dangerous immune overreaction in healthy individuals. In those cases, the body is overloaded with cytokines leading to severe inflammation and the fatal buildup of fluid in the lungs. British military doctors conducting autopsies on soldiers killed by this second wave of the Spanish flu described the heavy damage to the lungs as akin to the effects of chemical warfare. Lack of quarantines allowed flu to spread and grow. A nurse checking on a patient at the Walter Reed Hospital flu ward during the influenza pandemic, circa 1918. Harris and Ewing/Underwood Archives/Getty Images. Harris believes that the rapid spread of Spanish flu in the fall of 1918 was at least partially to blame on public health officials unwilling to impose quarantines during wartime. In Britain, for example, a government official named Arthur Newsholme knew full well that a strict civilian lockdown was the best way to fight the spread of the highly contagious disease. But he wouldn't risk crippling the war effort by keeping munitions factory workers and other civilians home. According to Harris's research, Newsholme concluded that the relentless needs of warfare justified incurring the risk of spreading infection and encouraged Britons to simply carry on during the pandemic. The public health response to the crisis in the United States was further hampered by a severe nursing shortage, as thousands of nurses had been deployed to military camps and the front lines. The shortage was worsened by the American Red Cross's refusal to use trained African American nurses until the worst of the pandemic had already passed. Read more, when black nurses were relegated to care for German POWs. Medical science didn't have the tools. But one of the chief reasons that the Spanish flu claimed so many lives in 1918 was that science simply didn't have the tools to develop a vaccine for the virus. Microscopes couldn't even see something as incredibly small as a virus until the 1930s. Instead, top medical professionals in 1918 were convinced that the flu was caused by a bacterium nicknamed Pfeiffer's bacillus. After a global flu outbreak in 1890, a German physician named Richard Pfeiffer found that all of his infected patients carried a particular strain of bacteria he called H. influenza. When the Spanish flu pandemic hit, scientists were intent on finding a cure for Pfeiffer's bacillus. Millions of dollars were invested in state-of-the-art labs to develop techniques for testing for and treating H. influenza, all of it for naught. This was a huge distraction for medical science, says Harris. 9. Gallery. 9 images. Photos, innovative ways people tried to protect themselves from the flu. By December 1918, the deadly second wave of the Spanish flu had finally passed, but the pandemic was far from over. A third wave erupted in Australia in January 1919 and eventually worked its way back to Europe and the United States. Even the US president wasn't spared. In April 1919, shortly after arriving at the World War I peace negotiations in Paris, Woodrow Wilson became seriously ill with influenza-like symptoms. The White House covered up the severity of his condition, claiming Wilson had merely caught a cold from the rainy weather in Paris. Despite nearly derailing the talks, Wilson eventually fully recovered and returned to the U.S. that July. The mortality rate of the third wave was just as high as the second wave, but the end of the war in November 1918 removed the conditions that allowed the disease to spread so far and so quickly. Global deaths from the third wave, while still in the millions, paled in comparison to the apocalyptic losses during the second wave.
Well, I hope you like my videos. I hope you like it. Well, maybe that's it.